My sister burns my dress a month before my wedding to cancel it, but after sending nude photos to my fiancé, her own boyfriend cancels theirs. I've been lurking on some Reddit subs for a long time, but never with the intention of writing my own story. I didn't think I had a sister worthy of a story, but here we go. I'm supposed to get married in less than a month to an amazing fiancé who is the absolute love of my life. I could tell you everything about how much I love this man and how much I want to marry him as soon as possible, but I'm not going into that now. This post isn't about my relationship with my fiancé. It's about my sister and my relationship with my family. About a week ago, I came home and found my wedding dress in ruins. It was thrown on the front lawn after being half burned. You don't come home from work expecting to find that scene. I'm not ashamed to admit that I cried when I saw my dress. I didn't have nice things growing up, and this wedding dress was probably the best thing I had ever been given in my life. My grandmother was the one who bought the dress for me, since otherwise it would have been impossible to have something like that. When I calmed down, I racked my brain trying to understand who did this and why. I hadn't upset anyone, and very few people had access to my house. My fiancé and I had to check the home security cameras to figure out who did it. The culprit was my older sister. The video clearly showed her entering my house, leaving with the dress, and then setting it on fire. She even stayed to watch it burn. Once she was sure the dress couldn't be saved, she put out the fire and just left. The moment I saw the footage, I was furious with her and with my parents. I never had a good relationship with my sister, but this was crossing the line. I immediately called my parents and told them what she did. I knew my sister had access to my house using the set of emergency keys kept at my parents' house. They were the only ones with a spare set, and the only way she could have entered without forcing the lock. Yes, I was angry at them because even though they didn't burn the dress, they had given her the keys for no reason. They started downplaying what my sister did. I wasn't too surprised, because my sister is the golden child of the family and they always look for excuses for her. If my sister couldn't pass a school test, then the evil teachers had conspired to steal her happiness. If the boy she liked asked someone else to prom, then he must need glasses because he couldn't see how beautiful she is. If my sister tripped in town, the city council had to fix the sidewalk, because her two crooked feet couldn't possibly be the problem. Until now, those things were harmless. But this was something else. My wedding was very close and repairing that dress was impossible. I would have to change the entire wedding theme to a Halloween ceremony for the dress to work. Luckily, my grandmother stepped in and bought me another dress. She had always scolded my parents for spoiling my sister, so she knows how our family dynamic works. After hearing what my sister did this time, my grandmother was absolutely furious. She was so angry that she decided to punish my sister. You see, my grandmother was paying for part of my wedding, including my dress. She was also doing the same for my sister, who was supposed to get married 6 months after me. But when my grandmother found out what happened, she decided not to give my sister any money. Instead, she gave it all to me. Of course my sister was not happy with this last-minute decision. However, I have no sympathy for her or my parents. She did what she did, now she can deal with the consequences. I even offered her my first dress to cut costs, but she didn't like that idea at all. She said she wouldn't wear that to her wedding. I told my parents they should try to convince her, because she'd end up wearing a dress of her own creation, and it would be the most original thing in the world. But none of them thought that was okay. Meanwhile, burning my dress for the reason she did was apparently fine. So far, she hasn't given me an excuse for why she did it. I don't expect one. It just sounds like my sister is completely unhinged. Another thing I did was tell everyone what she did. I know my parents wanted me to keep it a secret, so I did exactly the opposite. I'm doing the opposite of everything they want. So when they told me not to escalate the situation, I went straight to the police and filed a report against my sister using the footage from my backyard where she committed the crime. I don't know what to expect from that, because the woman who took my report told me that 80% of these cases are treated as family issues and don't go far. At least it helps me sleep at night to know I did everything I could. Edit. My sister wants a big wedding, so my grandmother's funds are important to her. She can't afford a big wedding on her own. That's why my parents and my sister say I'm trying to get her wedding cancelled. In reality, I think she's the one trying to get mine cancelled. I didn't include this in my last post, but she hates the fact that I'm getting married before she does. She suddenly got engaged just a month after I announced my wedding date. Then she set her date for the day before mine. She was desperate to get married before me and outshine me in every possible way. But she was too late. Most venues were already booked. She had to delay her wedding by 6 months because she had no other option. She sulked about it, but I didn't think much of it because my sister is a drama queen and loves being the center of attention. My parents keep encouraging her behavior because they love her more than me. In fact, they asked me to give my sister my wedding date and venue because it was unfair for me to marry before her. They said they were disappointed in me when I refused to do what they wanted. They haven't even been very interested in my wedding, while they have bent over backwards to help my sister plan hers. Again, not surprising, because I've always been the neglected daughter whose feelings don't matter. My sister knows she gets away with anything no matter what, so she didn't think twice before trying to ruin my wedding. She had to be the first to get married and have a bigger wedding than mine. I don't care if her wedding is better than mine, she can have all the spotlight she wants. I just wanted my own wedding to go well with the arrangements we had made. But my sister wasn't happy that I was happy, so she wasn't going to sit there and do nothing. It's a stupid excuse, but it's the best explanation I can imagine right now for her motivations. Now they want me to help smooth things over with Grandma, forgive her, and get Grandma to resume paying for her wedding. They're also very angry that I told everyone what happened, and not to mention the police report. But after feeling awful about what she did, I think this has given me the strength to feel much better. There is always something satisfying when stupid people like my sister get a taste of their own medicine. I know it's wrong to feel satisfaction over someone's misfortune, but in my sister's case, I absolutely love it. Update 1. I think some of you already pointed it out, my grandmother does not like my sister at all. She loves her because she's her granddaughter and tries not to show favoritism when paying for her granddaughter's weddings. But my grandmother has always said she hates my sister's personality and her entitled behavior. Since my post, I've had several conversations with both my fiancé and my grandmother about this situation and what we should do next. My fiancé is firm that he does not want my parents or my sister at the wedding at all. But being the great man he is, he leaves the final decision to me. My grandmother already told me she'll support any decision I make because, after all, it's my wedding. My sister is obviously uninvited. She uninvited herself the day she burned my dress. But since the choice is mine, I've decided not to invite my parents either. They didn't do much except defend my sister, but I don't want them spending my wedding day insisting that I invite her because she's family, she's your sister, and this will make her sad. I know my parents' behavior better than anyone, and without them there, everyone will be happier, even the venue staff will work with less stress without my parents causing drama. Their seats are already paid for, so now we just need to find people to replace them so they don't go to waste. I told my grandmother she could invite a couple of friends to enjoy the day, and my fiancé already has someone in mind as a replacement guest. What's left is to inform my parents and my sister about the updates. As for the legal case, my sister has a court summons in a few weeks and will most likely be ordered to pay for the dress. No, she's not going to jail for destroying it, but she will live in her own mental prison when she has no money for her wedding and still has to pay for an expensive dress. Besides, I don't want my taxes paying for her free stay anywhere. Update 2. I called my parents to tell them they are not invited to the wedding and to have them inform my sister of the same. I would have told her myself, but she blocked me. I also warned them that if they tried anything on that day, there would be consequences. No, we're family, no, we don't need an invitation, if they show up to my wedding, I will have them kicked out. My parents had an excuse for every bit of their atrocious behavior. According to them, my sister had been getting professional help for some time because she can't be happy, she's depressed, and she doesn't always make good decisions. They said some things had happened with her fiancé and she finally snapped the day she burned the dress. According to them, she must have taken the keys without their permission, because they didn't give them to her, but since they can't find them now, it's possible something like that happened. I didn't waste time believing that story or asking them to return the keys. I already changed the locks after the incident. I wasn't about to risk extra copies being out there. They are sure that not inviting them will only worsen my sister's mental problems. I responded that it's my wedding, not a self-help session. Besides, my sister blocked me. I don't see how she could possibly be interested in coming after everything that happened. I think the only people who might suffer mental distress from this are my parents. My sister couldn't care less. In fact, I think I'm doing her a favor. If it bothered her so much that I was getting married before her, she probably wouldn't enjoy witnessing it anyway. My parents agreed not to cause drama from now until the wedding, and also not to show up, but only if I helped my sister repair her relationship with my grandmother. That's when I started getting really angry. I told them that what my grandmother does with her money is none of my business, and certainly not theirs. If they want my grandmother to like my sister more, they should start by making sure she stops being a selfish, pyromaniac brat. My parents doubled down, as always, and said I was being extremely unfair. They had the audacity to say they had overlooked Grandma's favoritism toward me, but now I was being a witch by making her take funds away from my sister. I told them I didn't care what they thought, and nothing I decided about my wedding was up for discussion. If they didn't like my stance regarding Grandma and my sister, I didn't care. But if they set one foot in my wedding, they would discover real terror. At this point, I don't care if they think what Grandma did was unfair. I'm not thinking for her, and I didn't even suggest she do this. If Grandma doesn't like my sister very much, it's because she has watched my parents treat her like a spoiled child her entire life. I also advised them not to bother Grandma. She has even less patience than I do, so I doubt pushing her will help. They can take my advice now and let things calm down, or ignore it and finish ruining everything for themselves and my sister. I don't really care, but less drama would be preferable. I don't know what I'll do if they try something at my wedding. I haven't thought that far. But it won't be a lawsuit, as some people suggested. Where I live, lawsuits aren't as simple as in the United States. First, the case has to be extremely serious. And second, the police report exists primarily to obtain financial compensation without needing a lawyer. The judge will analyze the evidence and determine a monetary compensation appropriate to the circumstances. Update 3. Something else happened, and now I am absolutely boiling with rage. I hoped I wouldn't have to make another update here, but apparently God hates me enough to send more drama into my life. Last night, my sister sent my fiancé some extremely inappropriate messages. Not only did she tell him he was making a mistake by marrying the fatter sister, but she also sent him some photos in lingerie so he could compare for himself. She wrote, "Here you can see what you're missing." This stupid woman sent inappropriate things to my fiancé hoping he wouldn't show me. I always find it curious when people do something wrong and then keep making worse decisions, like they're not satisfied with the mess they've already created and want to destroy themselves further. My fiancé showed me those messages immediately, but I was furious with this bargain bin Black Friday hussy, always on sale. I wanted so badly to go and beat the hell out of her to make her rethink her life choices. But my fiancé talked sense into me, and he simply messaged my sister telling her that what she did was extremely inappropriate and that he wasn't even a tiny bit interested in her. He also told her that he actually hates her. My fiancé is a no-nonsense kind of man. You'd think those insulting messages would give her a hint. Nope. This witch then sent my fiancé a fully nude photo with the text, "Do you still think you hate me?" My sister has crossed every possible line of insanity. But two can play that game. Let's see how much she enjoys it. No, I'm not going to send nude photos to her fiancé. But we did consider sending her fiancé the things she's sending to other men. Let's see how she likes playing with fire. After this, she can thank me when she realizes her wedding is over forever and she won't have to spend so much money. Update 4. After my last update, many of you commented that I should post the things my sister sent. But I wasn't going to do that. Here, uploading that kind of content without consent is a crime. It would have been interesting, but my social media accounts would have been taken down before you finished reading this, not to mention the legal trouble I'd be in. What I did do was contact her fiancé, just like I said I would, and tell him everything that had been happening. I wasn't sure what he would do with that information. If it were me, I'd probably leave, but at the very least, I wanted him to control his dog for once. I was angry, so angry my fiancé had to hide the car keys so I wouldn't go over there and physically teach her a lesson for what she did. Some people in the comments said I'm violent for thinking that way, but she literally sent nudes to my fiancé. I wasn't going to sit down for tea and reach a polite resolution. I would have smashed the teapot over her head, with the hot water and tea still inside, by the way. Let's call my sister's fiancé Jack for this post. Jack isn't his real name. Jack seems like a normal guy who could be a case study for how he ended up dating my sister. I used to wonder what he saw in my absolute disaster of a sister. Regardless, I knew for sure he deserved to know what was happening. So my fiancé actually called him to come over to our house for a meeting and told him not to say a word to my sister. He seemed confused but came anyway. We showed him all the evidence we had on my fiancé's phone. It hurt to see Jack's face fall apart like it did. He was absolutely devastated by what he saw. He also didn't know anything about the dress, or the legal trouble my sister is in. We had a long conversation, and he told me he had no idea how much my sister hated me. He had his suspicions when she practically forced him to propose and marry her or she'd leave him. He knew me getting married before her was a huge blow to her ego. Jack did want to marry her someday, but he'd been pressured into proposing before he was ready. Her ultimatum pushed him into it, but he had always felt insecure about the whole thing. It seems my sister has no respect for anyone in her life except our parents. But I still cannot believe she actually gave him an ultimatum to marry her, then she tried to cheat on him by going after my fiancé. It disgusts me. Jack is just as disgusted. He said he's going to cancel the wedding and break up with her. He has self-respect and isn't going to stay with a tramp. My fiancé even told him he dodged a nuclear bomb. The three of us sat and talked a bit more before Jack left. Later, my fiancé and I went to my grandmother's house and told her everything. We didn't show her the nude photo, pretty sure it would have given her a heart attack. She saw the text, and I simply told her that my sister had sent my fiancé a highly inappropriate picture, letting her imagination do the rest. My grandmother may not be young enough to have grown up in the era of sending half-naked photos, but she isn't stupid. I thought I was angry with my sister, but my grandmother is ready to audition as the next horseman of the apocalypse. After cursing her out just like I did, she told me she's considering cutting off my sister, my parents, and anyone who defends her forever. She is completely convinced she wants to erase her from existence. My grandmother is still extremely angry with my sister and says there is no way in hell she will ever smell another cent of her money. I haven't told my parents anything yet because, frankly, I no longer want to speak to them. I know they will find excuses for her again. Maybe they'll blame me and tell me to fix everything for my sister. I just don't want to deal with that drama anymore. I know Jack will have to talk to my sister sooner or later, so I'll just wait for that. Well, my wedding is very close now, so I'm going to focus my energy on that. There is no way I'm postponing it for anyone. I've already spent too much time in this mess. I'll make another update here for you all later, but I don't think I'll be back for a long time after that. Update 5. Time flies fast. Hi, I've been very busy this past month, so you have to understand why I didn't have time to come onto Reddit. Frankly, I actually took a break from Reddit for a while and promised myself I'd return when things got better. I didn't want to bore you all with another one of my rants. Now that I'm in a much better place than before, all your kind wishes really reached me, and now I'm much happier than I was. I am now officially married to my husband. I know many of you were super worried that my wedding would be ruined by my family's craziness. Luckily, nothing happened. That spared me from dealing with any consequences involving my parents. All the drama happened before the actual wedding day, so my special day was somehow saved. I wasn't entirely sure my family wouldn't cause problems, so yes, I hired extra security, the whole package, but in the end I didn't need it. Now, let's talk about all the drama that happened. You'll be happy to know that karma hit my sister, and it hit hard. One day after my last post, my sister showed up at my house to scream about how I ruined her life. Jack had already warned my husband of what was coming, sending a message just minutes before to warn us about the incoming tsunami. So we were prepared. And yes, it was a complete tsunami. My sister was crying and spitting on our porch, screaming about how useless I was. My sister is too entitled and delusional to accept anything. She continued yelling, crying, and ranting at my door while trying to force her way inside. My husband had no time for her nonsense, so he simply called the police. The officers didn't arrest her, but they did run her off our property with a severe warning. She left, but didn't stop her madness. This stupid woman went on her account and posted a rant trying to twist the story. She said I tried to seduce her man and break her engagement because I was so jealous of her. Unfortunately for her, I had already made a post, thanks to Jack's warning, because I suspected that instead of coming to my house, she might make a post like that. Well, she ended up doing both. The home visit came first, then the online meltdown. My parents tried contacting me using other numbers, since they were blocked, but answering a single call was enough to know it was them. My husband ended up commenting on my sister's post, one that was already getting terrible reactions, and told everyone the full story, including sharing the screenshots he had. Not the nude, obviously that stayed private. Eventually, she deleted the post after Jack left a comment confirming everything and stating that their wedding and relationship were cancelled forever. The post caused a lot of damage to my sister. People started calling her names and even publicly shaming her. If you think calling her a tramp, my softened version of what I actually think, is harsh, you don't want to know what people think of a woman like my sister. Jack left the apartment they shared and moved in with a friend. My grandmother tells me my parents have since been trying to get her to convince me to forgive them. My grandmother has been far from kind to them, but my parents keep swallowing all her insults and still approach her. Honestly, I don't care anymore. Even if they are truly sorry now, I couldn't care less. I will maintain no contact with them, and with my sister, forever. One thing I can say is that I'm glad my parents and sister didn't try to cause drama at my wedding. Maybe it's because they know they can't sink any lower. They've done so much in such a short time that they probably don't want to suffer anymore. As long as they stay far away from me, I'll be a happy woman. I have a new family with my husband, so it's not like I'm missing anything. My in-laws are also wonderful people and have welcomed me into the family with open arms. So I'm going to stay with my new family and my grandmother, and try to build a better life for myself. The court hearing is still coming up very soon. I promise to bring at least one last update about that, unless something new and insane happens with my family. Update 6. Hi. Before I tell you what happened with the judge, I want to talk about what my parents and my sister tried to do to my grandmother. They tried to argue before a judge that my grandmother is not fit to live on her own and that they want to take charge of her. My grandmother may be an older woman, but she could kick their asses any day of the week, and in fact, she has. Not only did she obtain our local version of a restraining order against my parents and my sister, she also secured a power arrangement that prevents my parents or my sister from making any major decisions for her if she ever becomes unable to make them herself. A family member would take over, and ultimately that person is me. But if my grandmother were ever in a coma, they would not be able to decide to disconnect her. They will receive less than $1 as inheritance, which is the equivalent of the smallest banknote here. With that, they won't be able to contest the will, because they technically still received something. As I had already mentioned before, my grandmother wants nothing to do with them. She had already asked any relatives not to invite her if my parents or my sister were invited. And with the restraining order, that became a legal matter. But now she wants nothing to do with them at all, not even if they sneeze. She has asked for a filter so that if something happens to them, she prefers not to be told anything. No matter how serious it is. Now, regarding the hearing with the judge. My sister was ordered to pay for the dress and a small financial compensation for entering my home and also for replacing the lawn she burned when she did what she did. The good news for her is that besides the cost of the dress, she no longer has a wedding to spend money on. At this point, her ex-fiancé has thrown a smoke bomb and disappeared. She has been completely unable to contact him in any way. He has moved from house to house and now finally found his own place, one my sister does not know about. They've also left me alone after all the problems. Since there is nothing I can do to mediate between them and my grandmother anymore, they have no reason to bother me. I believe my parents have taken charge of paying my sister's expenses, because I doubt she has that kind of money, which doesn't matter to me, because as long as the money is paid, I don't care where it came from. Money that, by the way, I returned to my grandmother, because she was already doing too much by replacing the dress when it wasn't even her fault. Everything is going back to normal. Everything is going back to how it should have been.